muted.
I'm
You
Saint
muted.
Kofa. We got brother Uwazi Zamani with us.
How y'all doing, family?
All right. In her absence is our sister Tiffany Bliss Brown, who is actually having going through a loss in the family. So we want to ask that our Melanated Solutions Media watchers, viewers, want to ask that you all, keep her lifted up in your thoughts and send positive energy her way. Also, Dr. Cleo is currently busy right now. So it's me and Brother Uwazi coming to you, but we still
Absolutely.
gonna bring the fire, right, Brother
Uh,
Uwazi?
you know it. All of it.
Absolutely. So quick housekeeping. Want to make sure that y'all no nongo said, hey, Uwazi. All right. And y'all fill up the chat. Don't be shy in the chat room. I was just
Don't be
about to tell
coy.
y'all, if you're viewing this from Facebook, don't forget to go over to YouTube. We like for our viewers to view it from YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe. Hit that like button. Hit the thumbs up button on YouTube. Hit the like, the heart emoji on Facebook. Whatever the spirit leads you to do.
Oh, all the
Um,
family here today.
okay, that's what's up.
We got
All
all the
right,
family here today. I'm liking it. I'm loving it.
good. Well, we got a good broadcast set up for today. But before we get started, let's go ahead and get into our family feedback from the last episode and see what some of our viewers had to say. Okay, some pretty some good comments left there. And
Yes.
family, remember that we encourage your participation in the chat room, but also know that we do open up the broadcast for viewers to join somewhere around the last 20-15 minutes of the broadcast. Ephraim Addison, what is the subject of this evening? You're gonna have to be patient, brother. No,
Yeah.
political political buck breaking part two with
Hey,
the with
ready. I
the a
told
deeper
you.
look at Minister Farrakhan.
I
But
told
I
you they
should
was
have
ready
made
for
you
something.
wait, brother Addison. I should have made you wait for it. But no, he that's a cool brother. He called in
Yeah.
on the last broadcast when we were
Told you they
talking
was
about a
ready.
couple of things. So what's been going on with you lately, Uwazi? I know you graduated lately. Did we talk about that on the last broadcast?
Yes, we did. So I'm back here with my parents, and so it's been interesting because I haven't seen my family in like 2 years. I mean, I travel back and forth sometimes, but it's just nice to be back with my family, and my mama and my dad keep me rolling all day long. So it's never a dull moment here. And then I'll be closer to you all in Philadelphia, and well, closer to y'all up north and whatnot when I get ready to go to Philadelphia.
All right then. Well, I mean, best of luck to you, but enjoy that time with your family.
Yeah,
We love black families, of course, on Melanated Solutions.
absolutely. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
All right. Well, it's about that time that we go ahead and get into it. We always do this. We go through our current events. So let's go ahead and see what's going on in the world. Adam, can you roll our current events footage? Okay. So the Tulsa massacre 100, it's been 100 years. Um have you noticed any of the, I guess, the hoop, I don't want to say hoopla, any of the events, I guess, or things that are going on surrounding that? Anything stuck out to you, Wazi?
Yeah, it's funny because it's just like these people, the survivors are over 100 years old. Most of them are over 100 years old, and just hearing the testimonies and different things like that, and it's just like I don't think the appropriate measures of recounting these events is through like, oh, we need to hear their testimony so that the white folks feel bad about it. The only justice that should really be behind them and propelling these testimonies is reparations for all of it, these things that these people have lost. I believe one of the survivors, her name was Viola, and she was just talking about like the reoccurring nightmares and everything that she remembers of that day as a little girl. And it's just like I honestly feel like those people who are behind them giving their testimonies are only trying to sensationalize just the atrocity of it as opposed to the material solution to make sure that these people get what is exactly owed to them.
Well, this country loves to do symbolism for black people.
Yep.
You know, so you had Joseph Biden who came down to Tulsa. A bunch of the congressional black fakers, I mean, excuse me, congressional black talkers. Excuse me, I can't get it right. Congressional, congressional black caucus members were down there, and I saw them dancing and doing all kinds of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what all the hell it was. Soul
Just
Train.
Soul
They
Train
was having
lines,
some kind of
Electric Slide,
African
all of that.
djembe. Like they was doing a voodoo ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the crazy thing is Tulsa wasn't the only Ephraim said the shade. Tulsa wasn't the only place that this happened to.
Right.
This was and is a recurring theme in this
Yep.
country. Whereas black people, we build, we create, we exercise self-determination, and it gets
Mm-hmm.
destroyed by some of the most brutal and horrible and vicious means. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? The town of Ocoee, down where I'm from in Central Florida, was the site
Yeah.
of a massacre. I believe one took place up in North Carolina where they actually ran the black politicians out of town
Right.
and
Especially in
burned
like
down.
that concentrated area of the South. All of
Yeah,
somebody shared like a meme and they were like mapped out all of the massacres that took place around that area. And it's just like, and they was like sending it to white people saying, oh, pick a massacre and learn something today. And I'm just like, hmm. And those things are still going on today. I'm like,
look,
are
that's
y'all
why we
getting,
have the wealth gap. You know what I'm saying?
yep.
Like I'm sick of people trying to educate white people.
Yeah.
Look, it is what it is. We know the facts. The facts are what they are. What happened happened. Cut the damn check. That's what the next
Listen,
episode of Melanated is going to be
cut the
about.
check before we cut you. Is that the episode?
You said that, not me,
Is that
Uwazi.
what is that what it's giving?
Hey, look. Well, so in other current events, um, not so good news. A sister by the name of Sasha Johnson, who was an activist over in Britain, she was murdered. And to my knowledge, there have been about 5 suspects, I believe, were arrested.
Yes.
However, but do you know more about this? Because all I know is that is the circumstances around her murder or death are suspicious and things aren't adding up.
Yeah, they're trying to cover it up as though like one of the statements that's been like pushed and propagated is that well, she never received any death threats. There's no like trace of her having her life endangered. And notice that this is a phenomenon that has been said about a lot of activists, especially here and especially during the Ferguson riots when a lot of Black Lives Matter leaders were coming up missing, and those organizers in that area were coming up missing and turning up in burned up cars, turning up shot, being in their homes, their bodies being
Rest
discovered
in peace,
after 3 or 5 days.
Darren Till.
Yep. So
Yeah.
that's
So
the
yeah. So y'all should definitely keep following that case. Don't keep saying her name, Sasha Johnson, until we figure out what happened to that sister.
absolutely.
So we do have some news that kind of makes you grin a little bit, makes you smile a little bit. The London police, and I believe it's also another agency, a city or county agency within outside of London, have been ordered to pay the Nation of Islam $130,000 for blocking Minister Farrakhan's reparation speech.
And shout out to that lawyer Andre Clovis who was on it. and got them exactly what and got the Nation of Islam exactly what they deserve. And he
Mm.
laid it out in the deposition and said that, listen, all my clients want to do is talk about reparations and have this conversation with the public. And anytime Black people try to have any type of intentional dialogue amongst ourselves about things that speak to our material conditions, here they come. Here the state come. These other authoritarian state factions come in trying to stop everything and different things. But now the joke's on them. So we love to see it.
Well, hey, okay. So, well, I mean, so that gets us into the actual topic, though, this evening. Political buck breaking part 2. Dun dun dun. With a deeper look at
Thunder.
Minister Farrakhan. Now, I'm going to give some background on this. We did political buck breaking part 1, where we did a focus on LeBron James, Nick Cannon, as well as Damon Dash, as so-called powerful Black men who have been who have been brought to heel, and made to come down off of anything that may have been perceived as Black resistance to anti-Black racism and white power. So now we take a little deeper look into the political buck breaking, because there have been some other stuff that have taken place, and I was fascinated with this Kwame Brown story when we did the last broadcast.
Right.
But because I don't watch sports, I watch a little bit of boxing. That's my thing.
That's it. Oh, that's all
Trans,
right.
that wasn't that way. That's not how I fight, by the way. I just had to get it in camera.
Don't let them catch you slipping.
I like boxing, and I like swimming, but all the other sports like basketball, football, I do not follow it. And when I kept seeing Kwame Brown's name pop up in Black media, and I started hearing some of the things that he was saying, and some of the people he was talking about,
Right.
like Stephen A. Smith,
Yep.
yeah, right, and what's the name, Charlemagne. Some of these
Charlemagne.
people who I know ain't right. These people who I know are bootlicks and puppets. So I'm like,
Yep.
if these people are attacking him, are
Yep.
attacking Kwame Brown, then there has to be something about Kwame Brown that I need to look into.
Yep.
And thus, once I looked deeper into the Kwame Brown situation, I realized they tried to buck break this brother a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to buck break him a long time ago. And now everything is really coming to a head and being exposed. What do you know about this situation, Waz, before we get too
It's
deep in it?
it's just funny, whenever people start speaking truths, it's always this push to like dilute them or sanitize, or what we would say, or what the purpose of butt breaking is, to neutralize them. And so Kwame Brown even came out specifically with Charlemagne the God and talked about Charlemagne the God's rape case, and talked about how we should be canceling Charlemagne the God because of his circumstances with underage women, and how, if you watch The Breakfast Club, you know that Charlemagne makes some of the most obscene comments about Black people, makes some of the most obscene comments about Black women and their
Well,
sexuality.
well, before we get on Charlemagne, because I really want you to go in on that as far as
Yeah,
Charlemagne. There are some people who might be like I was a
yeah,
couple weeks ago and may not know the backstory and be like, well, what the hell are they talking about, Kwame Brown? Okay, so Kwame Brown was a first round draft
right.
pick, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there were these great expectations for the brother in the realm of basketball.
Right.
Now, somewhere along the way, he did not live up to those expectations in regards to scoring or winning games or however it works. I don't be following these brothers. I know the minute they do something political, the minute they step over into my realm, that's when I go to tracking them, right? I throw up those big old eye emojis in,
Yep.
right?
Right.
Other than that, I don't give a damn about their record and how many balls they can get through a hole or through a goal. But this brother's record is lackluster. Okay. And what recently happened was there were some sports commentators who were talking about him. Stephen
Right.
A. something. I'm Steve, not just Stephen A. Smith, but there's another Stephen. His name is Stephen Jackson or something like that. Jamil Hill even had a little something to say
Yeah.
on Twitter. But they started talking about his record, and then he started kind of just telling them, "Hey, keep my name out your mouth. I've been
Right.
through enough."
Right.
When the story comes out, he tells the story, and you can look this up. I believe it's in the New York Times or
Yep.
Washington Post, one of them. But
Mm-hmm.
he tells the story of how he was being bullied by Michael Jordan and what's his name, Michael Oakley,
Michael Oakley. Steve Oakley.
Steve Oakley.
Yeah.
Okay, two older basketball players were bullying him and I guess intimidating him to try to make him a better player or whatever. However that
Mm-hmm.
works.
Correction, Charles Oakley.
Charles Oakley, thank you,
Yeah.
Uwazi. I
Sorry about
told you I
that.
don't know who these people are. But he tells the story. He tells the story of them trying to bully him and break him early
Yep.
on to make him a better player or a more valuable player or whatever it
Right.
was on their agenda, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he also tells the story of how Oprah. Now these are his words. He says that somebody came to him saying that they represented Oprah,
Yep.
and you have to use this wording because Oprah is very powerful and she'll come after him, right? So he's saying that he was asked to do an interview with Oprah about single motherhood and to
Right.
promote and talk about how great single motherhood is. And he says that he didn't agree with that. He doesn't
Right.
believe that, even though he was raised by a single mother. That's not the stance that neither he nor his mother has towards single
Right.
motherhood or single parenthood.
Yep.
And he said
He
he
did
doesn't
say that.
believe it's good for our community. Great, whether you agree with him or not. He was then told that you can't say no to Oprah. This is not somebody you say no to.
Yeah.
And he stuck by his guns.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't let them break him like so many do, right? Scare him up.
Yeah.
After
For a
that,
platform.
he tells the story about how everything that you saw in the media about him was negative.
Right. For a
How
reason.
he was basically,
Mm-hmm.
whiteballed in the media and badmouthed in the media. And
Yep.
a lot of times, and people, I've heard some real insensitive or seen some real insensitive comments by some sports fans in regards to this brother. But that's really just kind of denying the humanity of black men, acting like that
Yep.
stuff can't affect your game or that stuff
Nope.
won't get to you,
Yep.
right? So when they start talking about how he's a
Mm-hmm.
bust and how he was this and that, he was like, "Look, man, y'all need to shut up. Only because I chose not to buck dance and bow down and play the game that you play every single
Right.
day, going after black people." And he said this: "Y'all get paid to go after and talk bad about black people," which is exactly what
Right.
Stephen A. Smith and the likes of him do. Now, Charlemagne decided to put his nasty mouth
Where it don't
on
belong.
on the brother,
Right.
right? And I've talked about how Charlemagne is trash long before you even long before you joined the melanated family, Uwazi. So I want you to go ahead and talk now after as far as Charlemagne and
Listen,
why he is a problem in itself.
as a fan, a former fan of the Breakfast Club, mainly because I liked the intimate conversations that they had with celebrities. When I saw what Charlemagne did to Lil Mama, and at first it was just like when I was younger, it's just like, oh, this is funny. She did just hop on stage with Jay Z and Alicia Keys. I was like, why did she do that? But the way he disparaged her, the way he made her feel bad, and the way he made her say, oh, well, your career is dead now because all of these different things. Charlamagne has a history of saying, "Oh, I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to ask the questions I want to say," and it's disguised as disparaging, and people accept it. And what bothers me about Charlemagne is that he has skeletons in his closet, mind you. But Charlemagne has the platform to where people aren't bringing those issues that he's had in his personal life to his platform. And
Well,
what he
there's
has
a
done with
reason for that though, Uwazi.
right, there is
There's
definitely
a
a
good
reason for
reason
it.
for that. 1 second though, curly girl in the YouTube chat said B1, and I want to acknowledge that. Black, that means black first. Put your B1 in the chats, y'all. make sure that we make sure that that hashtag is always a way that we can recognize new black media, that we can recognize real critical pro-black voices out here in
Absolutely.
these social media streets. But so back it up though, Wazi, because Charlemagne, I, I the reason Charlemagne's background is not thrown back at him, and the reason it's not used to
Hmm.
against him is because he himself is a tool for white power.
Absolutely.
He's the one. I mean,
Mm.
come on, Joseph Biden and all the Democratic Party, they knew about Charlemagne's history
Yes.
before they gave him the interview with Joseph Biden, the
Yep.
presidential candidate. You see
He's
what I'm
the
saying?
same
But
person.
because he's willing to do their bidding, that's not going to get brought up. But yeah, he can
It's
feel
not.
so comfortable to talk about Kwame Brown's daddy, his
Hmm.
brother,
His entire family.
his their criminal, so-called criminal records, and
Yep.
then he implies that Kwame Brown could explode or has a level of
Yeah.
criminality himself.
And revert to that. That's exactly what Charlemagne does. And not only that, but calling him mediocre. And a lot of people have carried that sentiment about Kwame Brown because it's just like he wasn't at the level of Jordan, or that he wasn't at the level of LeBron or Dwayne Wade or any of those star players that we see now. And it's just like I honestly think Kwame Brown is like, this happened. This was a part of my career. This was a part of my life, and these are the circumstances. And I think Kwame Brown has a level of acceptance with that. But the fact is, using that to disparage him, using that to degrade him, using that to make him feel like less than, that definitely shows that Charlemagne is participatory in the buck breaking, because he himself has already been buck broken by white media, and that's why they continue to use him. This is the same person who said that that offered what's that Republican political pundit, what's her name, Tommy Lahren, something like that.
Tommy Lahren.
He's sitting there having lunch with her, sitting
Yeah,
here
yeah,
going out shopping with
right,
her and different things like that. And
right.
it's just like, come on, we
Now,
see you, dude.
Now, some people might ask exactly what does a lot of this have to do with buck breaking. We talked about how they tried to buck break Kwame Brown, and
Right.
really, they talk about good athletes and bad athletes all the time.
All the time.
However, Kwame had enough, and he had a run in with about one or two people, and a whole bunch of people in the media started dogpiling him, and
Yep.
it was for a reason. It was because they know that he is not on the list of those who have been buck broken and
Right.
those who are usable by white power. Now,
Right.
Charlemagne, um, Adam, if you can go ahead and give us that screen share of Charlemagne and that sister who he was accused of sexually assaulting in the most horrible way.
Jessica Reed.
Jessica, wait, I think her name was Jessica Reed.
During the time, I think her last name is different now.
Okay, so that sister was 15. You can take it off now, Adam. That sister was 15 when the allegations actually, yeah, you can take it off. She was 15 when the allegations of her being sexually assaulted by Charlemagne, as well as his cousin and friends or whomever,
Right.
took place. And I encourage you all to go to YouTube, look up that sister's story. She's being interviewed extensively on it. Now, why do
Right.
I bring this up? Because you got to understand that so-called bucks, black bucks on the plantation, were sexually exploited in many ways. We're going to talk about the film Buck Breaking, Brother Tariq Nasheed's film. But before we get into that, let's understand that the buck breaking also took place. Black men were forced to have sex with other black women, non-consensual, in
Right.
the interest of producing black children. You see what I'm saying? Also, black men were made to whip other enslaved black people,
Right.
huh?
Yep. You're
And
right.
and
Fight,
and
kill them, all of that.
it's so sick because you can say, well, he's a sellout, he's this and that, and I ain't talking about Charlemagne. I'm talking about on this plantation system, on in this
Right.
slave society, right? You
Hmm.
can say he's a sellout, but then again, he himself has been broken and made to do the masters, the white oppressors' bidding. You see what I'm saying? So I don't make no excuses for Charlemagne, just like I don't make no excuses for any of the bootlicks and sellouts that we see today. But we understand that they are people who have been broken and bended to the will of white power to do their bidding. And
Right.
that's the main reason for the attack against Kwame Brown. B1 brother Cortez, that brother is also a gifted content creator and playwright, screenwriter, some of everything.
Absolutely.
B1 brother. So
And it also,
before we went on to the next thing, was there anything else you wanted to say on that, Kwame, or was there any questions anybody have from the chat?
yeah, I just wanted to say, like, you talk about, like, you hit the nail on the head with the psychological aspects of it, because think about it, like, these people are trying to make life comfortable on the plantation, but at the expense of their own people. People that and it's funny because Charlemagne, I had just watched the Surviving R. Kelly documentary, and Charlemagne was a huge presence on that documentary. And then coming back to this and looking at that, and I'm just like, okay, wait a minute now. And and another fascinating aspect of that is that the part of the plea deal that the Jessica Reed, I believe, is her name. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me in the chat. But part of the deal was for her not to speak about it. So that
What?
within itself is telling.
Well, no, this is what happened. She was underage, and
Right.
her mother did not allow her to testify.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Her mother spoke in her own words and said that she did not think her daughter could go through anymore, and
Um,
she decided not to let her testify. And then she also goes back and say that that was a huge mistake that she made.
right.
She thought she was protecting her daughter, but now, with hindsight, looking back and having to see
Yeah.
Charlemagne's face all the time
All
and
the
him
time.
literally taunting them with his lies, because he constantly gives a different account of that night. If you y'all go and just read on it for
Every
yourself,
time.
every time
Every
he talks
time.
about it, it's some
Every
different.
time.
It's something different, you know. He's just, I mean, let's move on. You know what, damn it. I ain't running my blood pressure up tonight. Not for no Charlemagne. There's some more. That's just
I
one of
felt
white
that through the
power's many
screen.
puppets. Like, I'm
I
not
felt
gonna
that
let no
through the
minion
screen.
get get us worked up.
I felt
But
that through the screen.
so check it. Um, the discussion topic is political buck breaking part two, with a deeper look into Minister Farrakhan. But what inspired this is, I got to give a shout out to Brother Tariq Nasheed
Yes.
for completing and executing and distributing the buck breaking film. He did it on his own. Did not use white funders, and therefore was able to put out a message that that I believe he believes in, and a message that he feels will empower Black people. Now, Dr. Cleo Monago was supposed to be on here because he and I went to the first screening. I want to call it, what you call that when they have the premiere.
Yeah,
We
that's
went to
it.
the worldwide premiere of the
That's
buck
it.
breaking film in Atlanta, and it was a nice event. They had in this beautiful building. A lot of people were out there. Brother Rizza Islam was the host.
Right.
There was also an artist, rapper, I can't remember his name. I wish I could, so I could give that brother a shout out. He performed and entertained us. Shout out to Queen Ahmadiyya Shakur. You can check that
Yeah.
sister on YouTube. There's also a
Mm-hmm.
V1
All the
New Black
superstars.
Media broadcaster. She was out there as well. And so me and Cleo, we had a nice time. You know what I'm saying? And it's always good when I can spend some time, with my good friend and mentor. So the film was a good film. It said some things that really needed to be said. And you haven't seen it, correct, Uwazi?
I have not. I ordered it. It's supposed to be here Tuesday.
So your DVD will be here Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay, that's too bad. But all right, so I'm gonna
Dang.
give I'm gonna give some spoilers, but it won't be that many spoilers, okay? Because we do want to talk about Minister Farrakhan. I know you have some strong thoughts on the minister, and with good reason. But back to the film, I some very important things were said about the white LGBTQ paradigm or political movement,
Yeah,
as
I
far as it
can
as
imagine.
far as it not being a movement built by or for Black people, and that they are just another branch of white power. What they call it
Yep.
white supremacy. White supremacy, I have a whole nother definition of that because I
Yeah.
spent some time in some other revolutionary circles. But I call it white power. But the idea is the same of as far as LGBTQ being just another branch of white power. They talked about a lot of the atrocities committed against Black men
Mhm.
by white men that were of a sexual nature.
Yep.
They talked about Bird Island in South Carolina, excuse me,
Mhm.
not South, excuse me, South Africa, colonized Azania. Bird
Yep.
Island, where hundreds of young Black boys were abused and even killed, I believe. They were raped and
Yep.
killed on that island. Dropped a lot of good information. He also talked about Bayard Rustin,
Hmm.
which the white LGBTQ movement have propped Bayard Rustin up
Just
to
watched the
being.
documentary on that.
Yeah, you definitely do. Somebody said,
Yeah.
Ephraim said, yes, please speak on it. So,
Yeah.
okay, so the white LGBTQ community props Bayard Rustin up like some
Mhm.
type of one, like he's a LGBTQ hero, when
Yep.
one, he spent most of his life in the closet,
Yep.
and two, they call him a civil rights icon when he really he did not want to have nothing to do with Black people. His only contribution to it was him helping to plan, doing some of the logistic planning for
Mhm.
the not a million, for the March on Washington for Dr.
Mhm.
King. And that's a whole nother story about
Yeah.
him, Dr. King, and brother Adam Clayton Powell. Some good stuff.
Yeah.
Y'all just got to read on it.
You
But I'm
gotta
not going
dig
to get
into it.
sidetracked. So you got to dig through it. I'm not going to get
You gotta dig
sidetracked.
into it.
But Bayard Rustin was vocally against the Black Power movement,
Yep.
vocally against the Black Panther Party, um,
Malcolm X.
vocally
Mm.
against Malcolm X,
Mm.
right? And came out later on in his later years and said gay is the new black.
Yep.
He was one of the ones promoting that bull crap, right? And so, but there's a good reason why he is promoted in the LGBTQ community
Mhm.
the way he is and put in front of Black people. But one thing they don't do is they don't talk about James Baldwin,
Nope.
right? And that's because James Baldwin did not subscribe to the ideology of calling himself gay
Nope.
or aligning with the so-called gay rights movement. James Baldwin was also a fierce supporter of the civil rights movement as well as later the Black Power movement,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And when he died was given a king's funeral in the streets of Harlem because
Yep.
he was loved by Black people and he loved himself some Black people. And he
Yep.
wasn't hiding anything about his
Mm-mm.
sexuality like Bayard Rustin. Oh,
Or
so they
speaking
don't talk
about it.
about that. And
Nope.
Tariq Nasheed did. He went in on Bayard Rustin and he showed a quick photo of James Baldwin. And I wish he had talked a little bit more about James Baldwin, right?
Yeah.
He just, I don't know if it was the time interest or what, right? So that's
Yeah.
one of the things that would be one of my critiques on the film. I wish he had went more into James Baldwin as a contrast
Yeah.
against Bayard Rustin, right? Okay. So another thing too, because I watched Tariq Nasheed's YouTube broadcast and Instagrams and stuff. So
Yeah.
I be listening to the brother.
Yeah.
I knew the film was coming out before it came out. I knew when he
Mhm.
was talking about doing when it was just a thought in his mind. And looked like I remember him saying he was gonna go into the Ed Buck story and go deeper into it.
Yeah.
But I was very disappointed when the film did not do that.
It's yeah. It
Um,
wasn't the nuance. I mean, that's what I appreciate Tariq Nasheed's work, but it's not the level of analysis and the level of critical thinking so based as to move it move it away from like the reactions that people already have about buck breaking and the surface level understanding of what it is. And I think Tariq Nasheed does a great job of using that to kind of rile up people and kind of run with certain narratives as opposed to like really dissecting it and diving into it in that way, because there's more cases that can be examined in terms of political bug break, not just Ed Buck. You got Jeffrey Dahmer. You
Yeah,
have
yeah,
several other cases that can
yeah.
examine the vulnerability of black men
The
and
Atlanta,
and
the Atlanta murders.
Atlanta murders, all of that, the serial murders
Now,
that took place
okay,
in
so
New
this is the
York and
thing too.
Philly,
A
all of
good
that.
thing that he does, because your critique is actually a critique that I've heard on a lot of his films, right? However, I think that is because what he does is called edutainment, right?
Did you?
It's to educate and entertain. And a good thing
Must do. I'm
about
a bird
these
there.
screenings that they're doing, they did one in Atlanta, they're doing one in Baltimore soon.
Oh well.
And I told Cleo about that, the doctor. So, but after these screenings, they do a Q&A and a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a chance for Black people to have some type of critical dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another big thing about the film is that they talk about buck breaking purely of a sexual nature and purely about male sodomy or rape, right?
Right.
And they talk about it happening in this very systematic, organized in public fashion.
Yeah.
And in real life, like, and Tariq is the king of receipts, but I can't find those types of receipts. I can't find those types of look. I gotta keep it
They in
real.
a bag. They in a bag somewhere. You know, in black households, we just put the grocery
Well,
bags together. They in one of
no,
them.
it ain't in the Crown Royal bag, money. Watch it.
They
My
one of
parents
them
used to keep
bags.
the Scrabble chips in the Crown Royal bag. They used no, those receipts, they're not being hidden in some Crown Royal bag in your
Mm-mm.
grandma's shift robe in
My,
the spare room that Uncle Pete used to sleep in,
you're not
right?
gonna do this.
Those receipts are not being held there. But one thing I know about white power is that they hide what they do. Don't get it
Yep.
twisted. The story of Wilmington has been hidden
Mm-hmm.
in the Wilmington Library, and if you go to look it up, they won't let you look up the records or whatever.
No, you
So
have
I
no
hear.
access to it.
So I don't put nothing past white power. I don't put nothing past these oppressors. You feel me?
Yeah.
However, I'm gonna just say it. I cannot find those receipts for the buck breaking farms. I cannot find the receipts, for these things. However,
Right.
I did find some receipts for examples of the sexual exploitation and abuse of black men during
Mm-hmm.
chattel slavery. Now, and a lot of this documentation comes from Brazil
Yes.
for some reason. And there's
Mm-hmm.
also some documentation out of Jamaica. One case in particular is the trial of Luis da Costa
Yep.
in 1743. He was a black slave who himself was put on trial and accused of sodomy, right? But it later
Yep.
came out in the trial that he was actually the victim of rape himself by the captor of sexual assault. I shouldn't be using the R word so callously. I've done it now, so I apologize if that triggered anyone. But so that's one record, and then you can find some other documentation in the diary of I believe his name is Thomas Thistlewood. You'll find some examples of documentation of slaveholders, captors sexually assaulting and abusing black male slaves. And we know
Yeah.
that book breaking was a systematic process of
Yep.
breaking the wheels and the wheels and the spirits of enslaved black people. But oftentimes that took place in the holding pens before they even got them to the auction block sometimes.
Right.
And if they were particularly unruly, and they got to the plantation that way, then yeah, there were so many other various means of breaking a slave,
Yeah.
mind you.
All of it.
So the focus, I don't think the focus should solely be on the sexual assault or exploitation. I think it minimizes the systemic buck breaking as well as woman breaking, whatever you want to call it, the
Yeah.
breaking of black men and black women. And it also delegitimized the very real issue of white LGBTQ paradigm and political movements, and the danger
The
and the damage
erasing.
that they do to black people.
Yeah. The eraser. It really encapsulates the erasure of just how vulnerable black men are in these systems of white power. And I think that level of conversation and that level of dialogue, it's even more like what there's so much out there, like even just with the case that you mentioned, but then there's also Vincent Woodard's book, The Delectable Negro, where they talk about not only slaves being sodomized by slave owners, but being eaten by them. And just that idea of consumption of black male death, the consumption of black male vulnerability, and how we're seeing that now through police killings, how we're seeing that now through medical field, through the medical field, how black men are apprehensive about going to the doctor because like these people are trying to kill them, how we see it during how people were murdered during the Black Panther Party, when people would go up missing for going to the hospital and it being reported that they were known members of the party, all of that. So I think the conversation is there. I do appreciate Tariq Nasheed for putting the conversation there and putting it there, but it's a level. I think it needs more nuance, and my opinion is probably gonna be a bit stronger after that once I see the film.
You really need to watch it. And another
Yeah.
thing that he does that I think is very important, and some people gonna get mad at me, but I don't care. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Um, there is a
Ooh.
real connection between white LGBTQ political powers and actors and the abuse and
Mm-hmm.
trafficking of humans and children. And Tariq Nasheed gets into it in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care. You can say what you want to me, because bro, believe me, I got the receipts on those. I just can't. Honestly, I got the receipts on those.
Yeah.
Ed Buck was not. That's why I was so disappointed, because I know Tariq has the ability to do his digging. Ed
Yep.
Buck did not happen in a vacuum. He did not
Mm-mm.
happen in a silo. Ed Buck
Mm-mm.
is connected to white homosexuals from Seattle to Atlanta to New York City. And I said it. And I said it. And they got a
You
whole
did.
network of
You
of of,
did.
of taking black bodies, of breaking black men, getting them hooked on crystal meth. They abuse children, all types of sick.
It's great that but if you mentioned Jamaica earlier as a site of that, there are literally sex workers as young as 12 being victimized by white tourists.
In
And I had a
Africa too.
conversation in Africa as well.
Yeah,
And these people are literally going over to these countries to exploit black men or to fulfill some sick sexual fantasy.
that's being talked about in the film too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's being talked about in the film
I
too.
I can't wait to watch it.
You got to. I mean, you got to see it. Like I say, we ain't. We. I mean, and I don't. Let me tell you something. I'm not afraid to give a brother props, to give a black man
Yeah,
props. That's why I believe in
absolutely.
encouraging my brother. You know what I'm saying? I can
Yeah, yeah,
have this critique. That's one of the main things I so respect about Dr. Frances Cress Wilson.
yes,
She was a scientist at the end of the day, and she
yeah,
opened up her theories and everything that she said to critique, and she wanted us to ponder and pontificate and to
yeah.
build on what she said, right?
Right.
And I believe Brother Tyreek can appreciate the same thing. So yeah, but all
You
of
ain't
that is
lying about
covered.
that. You ain't
But
lying
with
about
that
that at
being
all.
said, so we promised y'all not just a review of the buck breaking film. We promised you a deeper look at Minister Farrakhan. Oh, you scared to death, Negroes. I can't. I like doing Farrakhan impressions. What can I say?
You do a good job. You do a good job, brother.
Thank you, beloved.
Ooh. So
But
that's
let's
what we,
talk about him
yeah.
because
Focus.
that's one brother who they God, man. You say Farrakhan. First of all, if you have any position that has been given to you by white people,
Yes.
it can instantly, oh, that's on my screen. I thought something was in my eye. It can be instantly be snatched away from you the minute
Yep.
you say anything nice about Farrakhan. As a matter
Yep.
of fact, if Farrakhan is taking a picture in your vicinity and you have a position that has been given to you by white people, you
Hmm.
better run and make sure that you aren't captured in it. Make sure that you ain't photobombing it
Right.
because it
Yeah.
will get snatched from you because they do not play when it comes to Farrakhan. And we need to know why. We need to know why. But then also, Farrakhan is not perfect.
Right.
And there is the conversation of critique around that brother. So before I go to running my mouth, Uwazi,
Hmm.
um, give me what are your thoughts and what's your stance on the minister?
First of all, Farrakhan was probably, along with Khalid Muhammad, Farrakhan was probably one of the first fixtures of what would be called a radical black man. That's the first. Probably the first person who I saw that wasn't taking stuff from white people, wasn't interested in statements that were invested in redeeming white people or anything like that. He was one of the first people that I had witnessed, and I was like, "Who is this powerful black man talking to white people like this?" Mind you, I was like, I want to say I was either 7 or 8 years old, and I had saw this, and I was watching old episodes of the Phil Donahue show. I think I said this on the last
Oh
podcast.
yeah.
And one lady in the audience had stood up and she said, well, no, one of the like white conservatives stood up and said, well, why don't you go back to where you came from? And Farrakhan just sat back as kindly as you please and said, he said, how can
Oh,
you tell
that's how he
me?
sat too, huh?
Yeah, just like that, just as cool as you please. Moisturized skin, hair slicked back, all of that. The Nation of Islam surrounded him. I'm just like, man, And he was like, "How can you tell me to go back where I come from? You're not even from here." And I was just like, "Well, that's true." I grew up in a race conscious household, so we this was circulating, but more and more it came out entered into as I entered into my black spaces, my black activism and revolution and whatnot. And I found like a lot of people around me from former members of the Nation of Islam had qualms with Farrakhan and being in close proximity to Farrakhan. I'm not here to attack Farrakhan's character. No, no leader, no black leader is perfect. But more and more, it had came out about his complicity with the death of Malcolm X, and and what he had said, particularly in the speech, what he had said about Malcolm was ours to deal with. He was not, but Malcolm belonged to the people. And
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm was very forthright in saying that his work and his actions were to be done to uplift and affirm black people, and that's where this connect for me comes with Farrakhan. I admire Farrakhan as a leader. I admire Farrakhan for what he has done and how he has spoke out in support of black people. But that statement particularly disturbed me, and he is not the first black scholar, black leader, black scientist. Because as you said, Frances Cress Welsing has said some things that didn't sit right with me. But the more and more I read her work, I was like, okay, like you said, it's a critique and it's something to think about. And I think my only issue was with what he said regarding Malcolm X and the death of Malcolm X, and specifically with Malcolm X's daughter, Atila Shabazz, and her critiques and her qualms with Farrakhan and what he was doing. And for those who didn't know, that Farrakhan was a student of Malcolm X, and once Malcolm X was assassinated, Farrakhan kind of sort of not took, but kind of joined the ranks of what Malcolm X's platform was within the Nation of Islam. And I'm sure my brothers from the Nation will correct me, but that was my only concern about Farrakhan and why he would say something about that. Because if the work is for the masses of black people, the toiling masses of black people here and abroad, if that's then how can you say he belongs one individual belongs to this. The movement is bigger than everybody, and one sole individual, in a sense, cannot belong to you, especially if their efforts are geared towards benefiting us as a whole. So the Nation of Islam is just but one organization speaking on behalf of Black people, and Malcolm X belongs to all of us. Specifically, there's Malcolm X. Those of us who are Black affirming, Black loving, Malcolm X is in us, and that's just how I feel about it. Like, but that particular comment disturbed me a little bit.
And and I'm with you on that actually. I would say I had that same concern. Okay, these comments is I know these comments. Hey, Sonya
Mm-hmm.
Ross says I love the minister. Stop it.
I love him too.
I love the minister
He,
too.
he black. I
So,
love
and
him.
I heard that speech, and that speech concerned me. But then also, like you say, you got to dig deeper. You got to dig deeper.
Mm-hmm.
I dug deeper, and I also found some stuff. I found some stuff Malcolm was saying that concerned me.
Yeah.
I saw Malcolm going to the white media.
Mm-hmm.
To air out his grievances with the Nation of
Yep.
Islam and with the Prophet Elijah Muhammad at the time. I also saw COINTELPRO at its height at that time,
Yep.
causing rumors and distrust and chaos in our movements and our organizations.
Yeah.
And I take a look at what he said in regards to Brother Malcolm, and I say, ooh, that's a hard pill to swallow. And
Yeah.
when people bring up the subject of how do you feel about the idea of the Nation of Islam being complicit or having something to do with Brother
Yeah.
Malcolm's death, I always say this: I don't know for sure exactly how it all played out, but I do know one thing: white power was at the root of it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
White power was orchestrating the whole thing. So
Absolutely.
when I look at the minister today, I don't look at him for the minister of the 60s and the 70s.
Right.
And I don't look at him as far as whether I agree with him that Brother Malcolm was theirs to do whatever they want to with. I have to put myself in that position because I'm a pro-black person who's part of organizations. How do you handle a traitor?
Yeah.
How do you deal with a
Those are
traitor? And if you
those are
honestly
in-house
believe it's
things.
a traitor, how do you? I mean, no, I mean, let's keep it real.
Yeah.
Whether you don't necessarily know that this traitor is not a traitor and he's gonna become the martyr and the patron saint of the movement and blah 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 blah. When all this COINTELPRO and this and that are
Mm-hmm.
floating around you, I can't cipher through that stuff. I know we got to get
Right.
through now, you know. But my stance on Farrakhan, on Minister Farrakhan, is that he is the picture of black self-determination, meaning
Right.
he's they can't control him. I was
Yeah.
my final call. I read and I think I put it in the recycling bin already. But in the final call, we got it from the screening, actually, from the film, the buck breaking film screening. They were giving out final call newspapers, and in that issue that I had, they had a big old ad taking up the whole newspaper saying, "Don't take the vax." I ain't gonna say the whole word. YouTube might ding us. But
Okay.
saying don't
They don't
take
need
that.
that.
Yeah, don't take the macaroni shot, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean by the macaroni
Mm-hmm.
shot. You getting the
Mm-hmm.
macaroni disease. All right. We can't do that. We can't say that on here. You know why? Because white folks own YouTube. White
Yep.
people own Facebook.
And we won't
Hello.
be able to post
But they
that
don't
threat.
own the final call. They don't own the final call, beloved. But I mean, and that's just one example. And here's another thing too. Farrakhan is oftentimes demonized by white people because of his stance against Israel.
Right.
And those of you, and maybe we need to do a broadcast on Israel alone, you
Yeah.
know, just to educate some of our people on the significance of the story of Israel, the political story of Israel and how it
Mm-hmm.
relates to us today. That is a story of white imperialism, you know. And that's one of the main reasons why he's called in a so-called anti-Semite.
Right.
But if you know, like I know, if you listen to my granddaddy, Dr. John Henry Clark, it's my honorary granddaddy, my adopted granddaddy. He said, what is a Semite? Where's Semicha? Or
Right. He did
right?
say to me.
But that's a whole nother
He did say to me too.
topic, right? But
Yeah.
that's why he gets labeled anti-Semite, because
Yeah.
he's not with the whole legitimizing taking Palestinian people's lands.
Yeah. And we seeing it now. It's there. It's you can't get away from
Can barely say the minister. Okay.
it.
So, all right, these chats are off the chain. Y'all doing a
Yeah,
lot of
y'all going
talking.
in. I'm here
Come
for it.
on,
They are going
Adam, can we
in.
open it up? Anybody back there waiting for us? Come on in the room. Because y'all off the chain in the chats.
Don't
I
be
don't care.
scared.
I don't care if you're wearing a bonnet.
We definitely don't care if you're wearing a bonnet.
You can wear your bonnet, okay?
Your do-rag, head wrap,
Do rag or whatever.
whatever you got. Come on.
Because
If
if
you are.
nobody's trying to come in and join us from the audience, we're gonna definitely wrap up. I think it's been a great broadcast. I think we definitely got across what we wanted to get across. If you want to make a quick comment, join the conversation by following the link. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the link. We're gonna let that link marinate for a little bit, just in case, we don't want to let none of our family
Hey.
out. Oh, Ephraim. What's up, brother Ephraim?
Hey, how y'all doing?
We
What's
doing
good,
good.
brother? How
How
you
you
doing?
doing?
I'm
What's
good.
on your
I'm
mind,
good.
bro?
It's. I'm just sitting back listening to all of it. So it's a lot to take in. But like you said, with the elder minister Louis Farrakhan, I mean, I have huge respect for him. And like I said, there were some discrepancies I had to like deal with, far as with the whole assassination of Malcolm X and everything. So it was just like, okay, I need to do some research on my own, to
Man.
come with my own conclusion of, what was the riffraff about. So, but outside of that, I mean, it is what it is. And Malcolm X said it before. He said the media will make you love your oppressed but hate your oppressor.
Come
So
Right.
on now.
it's like you can't, it's like damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Right.
So it's like the media plays a part of it. So everybody wants to sit up here and say, well, Minister Farrakhan is anti-Semite. But if you go into the dictionary, the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and look up Afrocentric, it will tell you who are the original Semites are, which are the three of us on this
Hey,
screen right now. So
come
Come
on now.
on.
how can someone be against their own
Anti
people if
them.
you are,
Right.
if you are the original people? So it makes
Very
no
great
sense.
point.
Yeah.
Very great point.
So but
I
yeah,
want
so
to
I just
encourage you too, brother Ephraim, to
mhm,
go ahead and look more into the story of brother Malcolm and his departure from the nation,
mhm,
the rift between him and Elijah Muhammad, as well as COINTELPRO, and
mhm,
Yeah.
and do get your own narrative and come to
right,
your own conclusion around that story, because like I said, it's a hard pill to swallow, and it's hard to reconcile a lot of the stuff that took
Yeah.
place back then.
right, right,
But thank you for
right.
tuning in, brother. Make sure you tune in next broadcast as well.
So I will,
Yeah.
I will. So I gotta hear more about the whole LGBT, that
Oh yeah. Oh,
that
we
right
got.
there. Whew, I
Oh, we
think it
ready
needs
for
to
you.
be a whole panel discussion with, as I like I wish Mr. Menango was clear, was on here today, because I wanted to thank him for using the analogy of same gender loving. I wanted to praise him for that. So, but it's just, it needs to be a whole panel discussion on that. Like,
Absolutely.
it's that
For
whole,
sure, Ephraim. I'm gonna take that into consideration and see
right,
what type of programs we can develop to get brothers in dialogue and get us talking about these issues in a
right,
sane and
Oh,
rational
that's good.
and a
Yeah.
critical way.
right.
Um, but again, I really appreciate you. You're a big supporter of the
Absolutely.
broadcast, And again, I can't say how much we appreciate you every time you do tune in.
Much love.
No
Much
problem. I'll
love,
try to
brother.
tune as much as I can. Peace.
Peace. Adam, did we have anybody else back there backstage trying to get in and say their piece? All right, y'all. Well, make sure that you do text the our community app at 410-826-6264. That way you can get updates on not just the broadcast, but different programs and stuff that we either are sponsoring, promoting, facilitating. However, there's a lot going on beneath the surface. So text that, and that way you can be included. Make sure you tune in to the next broadcast on June 18th. That's our big Juneteenth episode, right?
Wait.
Entitled "Cut the No, it's entitled "Cut the Check." Cut the check. The fight for reparations, and we're going to be taking a deeper look at former DC Mayor Brother Marion Barry. And you will be surprised to learn how that brother actually, his contribution, I'll say, or what he contributed to the LGBT community and the Pride Month, the concept of Gay Pride Month, that they would never give him credit for as a pro-black, because he's pro-black before anything. And he always made that clear. But we're gonna get into that a little bit more on the next broadcast. Make sure y'all tune in, family. Uwazi, what do you have to say to the people to wrap
I
up?
just want to say
Summary, your last
y'all.
thoughts.
I just want to say y'all showed up and showed out today. I'm looking at these comments and I got goosebumps because the love, all of this is overwhelming. It's just great to see. So much love to y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Oh, my bad. I thought I had the phone on silent.
That's all right.
Well, anyway, at least we went through the whole broadcast and it didn't say nothing. So I mean, kudos to that. But and if you're not, I just actually had to check my phone to see if I got the notification, and apparently I didn't get the notification. So that means that some of you might not have gotten the notification, y'all. As far as Melanated Solutions Media going live, and that tends to happen to these pro-black broadcasts. We get what's called shadow banned.
Yep.
However, we ask that you just stick with it, and make sure you're paying attention, text community app, and stay up, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe.
That
So
part.
to all of our melanoids, we want to say peace. We love you, and stay black.
That part.